Hockey fans support an amazing cause at the third annual Shoulder Check Showcase, and Matt Rempe puts on a show.
You're Locked on the New York Rangers, your daily podcast on the New York Rangers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, Blue Shirts fans, to episode number 1356 of the Locked On New York Rangers podcast. I'm your host, John Chick. Just want to thank you guys, as always, for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. And today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off of your first year. And we are, of course, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So wanted to go ahead and dedicate this very special episode of Locked On New York Rangers to the Shoulder Check Showcase, the third annual Shoulder Check Showcase to be exact. It took place last night, Thursday night, at Terry Connors Ice Rink in Stamford, Connecticut. And if you're unfamiliar with what this is, it's been kind of building some steam and gaining a little bit more notoriety in recent years, but essentially it's a charity hockey game. What happened and the way this all came to be, years ago, a young man by the name of Hayden Thorson tragically took his own life. He was a hockey player from Darien, Connecticut, was a goalie to be exact, and he was somebody that was known, by all accounts. I never met him personally, but by all accounts, everybody that knew him said just a great kid, somebody that was everybody's friend, somebody that you could go to if you were having a hard time or whatever the situation might be. Just a class act all the way, and obviously a very sad situation. What came out of this, though, was the HT40 Foundation, and that's his initials, H&T, and then 40 was the number that he wore while playing hockey, while playing goalie in Darien. And one of the biggest things that the HT40 Foundation does is the Shoulder Check Showcase. This, like I said, is the third annual Shoulder Check Showcase, and it's wild because you get players from all across the NHL coming out to support this cause and take part in this charity hockey game, and obviously be a part of something that has a very powerful message. The essence of the Shoulder Check Showcase and the HT40 Foundation as a whole is essentially just making sure you're there for each other, having each other's backs, hand on a shoulder kind of a situation, making sure that everybody's taking care of each other, making sure that we're watching out for each other, and making sure that people know that, if anything's wrong, you can come to me and you can talk to me about it. Essentially making sure that nobody ever feels alone. And I think it's a wonderful message. It's a positive message. There's so much negativity in the world today at times, and it comes from various places. And it's easy to kind of get lost in that sometimes, but there's a lot of good in the world today too. And I think this is a great example of that. When you're in that arena, I shouldn't even call it really an arena. It's a great rink, don't get me wrong. But part of the charm of this whole thing is that it is a pretty small rink. You can, if you're in the last seat of the rink, which I was, the last row, you can literally reach up and touch the ceiling. That's what we're talking about here. But again, very positive vibes and just good feelings inside that arena. People are there obviously to see the players. I'm sure they want to watch this game and see all these star players, all these players on the Rangers. Trevor Zegras was there, Jake Oettinger, Frank Vatrano, the list goes on and on. But I think a lot of people, pretty much everybody in that rink, they bought into the message as well, and the importance of the message, and just making sure that you're there for each other. And, that's obviously a nice thing to say. I'm going to basically just spend the episode kind of walking everybody through the evening. Got a couple of videos that I'm going to share as well for those of you that are watching on YouTube. But essentially, there's a skills competition at the start of the night. Swaggy P, who's a content creator, he was front and center for a lot of that. Just a ridiculous puck handler, doing all kinds of trick shots on shootout attempts and whatnot. So that was obviously cool to see. But then you have Hayden Thorson's mom and his sister. They were both on the ice before the game started. His mom took the microphone, addressed everybody there, thanked everybody for being there and believing in the cause and doing everything they can to support the family. And then Dave Maloney was there as well. He was on the ice. He kind of presided over some of the early evening festivities and, talked about the message of the HT40 Foundation as well as the Shoulder Check Showcase. Dave was there last year, and I should have also mentioned the recently promoted Dave Maloney, because he's going from being the color analyst on the radio to now this upcoming season going to be in the Rangers TV booth, and I think he's going to do a heck of a job. He does a heck of a job on the radio. I'm sure that'll translate very naturally to TV right alongside his longtime partner, Kenny Albert. And Arda Alcal was there as well. He was the MC for the evening, brings a lot of energy and just kind of talked everybody into the building and, obviously presented the message as well. And for my money, just did an awesome job handling those responsibilities as the MC. And one of the coolest things I would say of the entire night, I mean, you can pretty much pick from any of about 50 different things because, again, it is really a wonderful event, and it does obviously have a very positive and very important message. But one of my favorite things was watching John Brancy before the game. And you're probably thinking that I'm talking about him singing the national anthem, and he did that too. He did the national anthem. We know how good he is at that. Brancy, he doesn't do all the home games for the Rangers at Madison Square Garden, but he does a lot of them. And he did the national anthem here as well at Terry Connors Rink. But this year, because he was there last year too, this year, he also did a rendition of Lean on Me. And I'm going to go ahead and play that video right now. And honestly, even if you're on audio, you don't really, I mean, the video is cool and everything. You should check it out later, but this will translate very well to audio as well. So let's go ahead and play that video right now. Just amazing stuff.
Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for you lean on me till I know you need somebody to lean on. Just call on the brother when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you understand. We all need somebody to lean on. Lean on me.
Yeah, powerful stuff. One of the absolute best in the business. I'm a Ranger fan. A lot of people watching this are going to be Ranger fans too. I'm sure we're all a little bit biased, but you show me anybody across the NHL that does a better job with this kind of stuff than John Brancy. I just absolutely elite at what he does. But again, I thought it did a great job setting the tone for the night. Just like I said, a wonderful event. And in just a second, where I keep talking about the shoulder check showcase, I want to shift our attention to a couple of the Rangers that participated in this charity game last night. The 4 current Rangers, there were some former Rangers there as well, including Chris Kreider, who got a nice hand from everybody when he arrived. So we'll talk about that. And then at the end of today's episode, gonna play a couple more videos, talk about some of the fun, lighthearted moments from the game, because there were quite a few of them. Some truly laugh out loud moments during the shoulder check showcase, the game portion of the shoulder check showcase. So yeah, like I said, we're gonna do all that good stuff in just a second. All right, we just want to take a minute to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can be. Whether you're growing your savings or planning for a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It is a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you are also building wealth. We've all been there in the past. Expenses can kind of pile up quickly. You go to a Ranger game, you take the family out for dinner, you do this activity, you do that activity, you go to a concert, whatever it might be. The expenses can pile up, and you might look at your bank account and say, hey, where did all my money go? But that's where Monarch Money comes in. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off of your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off of your first year. All right, let's go ahead and keep everything rolling on this very special edition of Locked On New York Rangers. Obviously, talking about the shoulder check showcase. For the everydayers, you guys are definitely going to want to stick around. We're going to be continuing next week with our off-season series of best and worst case scenarios, where we basically just take a look at every single player on the New York Rangers, talk about everything that could go right, everything that could go wrong, and kind of have a final verdict, a final analysis of every single player. We already did one on Artemi Panarin, so you can go back and check that one out if you'd like. In our next episode, it's actually already recorded. It'll be dropping on Monday, and that is going to be an episode that focuses on Mika Zibanejad. So definitely looking forward to that. But for right now, let's continue talking about this awesome event, the Shoulder Check Showcase. And I want to specifically kind of focus in here for this next section on the 4 current New York Rangers that participated, and at least one former current Ranger, former current Ranger. At least one former Ranger in Chris Kreider. There we go. We got through that. But anyway, the 4 current players on the Rangers that participated as, players in this event were Matt Rempe, Adam Fox, Brett Berard, and Drew Fortescue. And first of all, right off the bat here, whether it's any of these 4 players in the Rangers or any of the other players that participates in this event, let's give them a round of applause, shall we say? They do. No, this isn't in their contract. Somebody mentioned, during the game that they're not getting paid for this or anything like that. This is clearly an event that means a lot to them. It's a message that they all clearly believe in, and it's something that they do out of the goodness of their own heart. There's a lot of things that they could be doing in the off season, whether it's getting ready for the upcoming season or leisure or whatever it might be. But these guys all showed up for this, and going through the roll call here, this is the second time for Matt Rempe. He was there last year as well. I'm almost positive that Adam Fox has been at all 3 of them. It definitely wasn't his first one. I believe Brett Berard has been at all 3 as well, which is interesting because the first one that he did, actually, no, it would be the first 2 that he did. He had not even made his NHL debut yet. So that's somebody that gets it and somebody that, wants to go out and make a difference. And that's very cool. Brett Berard, as a lot of you know, he's long been one of my favorite New York Ranger prospects, and seeing him participate in this charity game, that just, increases, my willingness and just wanting to see him succeed, throughout his NHL career going forward here. So great job by him getting to all 3 of these. And Drew Fortescue making his first appearance here. Drew Fortescue, obviously a former 3rd-round pick by the Rangers, and he's a prospect that the Rangers, they're counting on. Hopefully, he can eventually have a really nice career for the New York Rangers. He's not there yet, but he will get there, and it's only a matter of time before we see Fortescue with the Rangers. But Matt Rempe scored a goal in this game, and I figure we'll go ahead and play that video for you guys right now. And again, even if you're on audio, you can still kind of appreciate the sounds and everything. I mean, it's like I said, it's a very small rink, so all the sound is amplified. I mean, when you're at an NHL game, you hear everything. That's one of the coolest things about going to a hockey game. You really feel the sport and hear the sport, I think, better than any other sport out there, and at least for my money. But let's go ahead and play this video, of Matt Rempe scoring a goal in the shoulder check showcase. It was actually kind of a beauty. So there you go. Big time goal there by Matt Rempe while representing Team Quick. Jonathan Quick, he did not play in this game. He played last year and actually put on a show, but he was one of the coaches, and all 4 of the current Rangers were on Jonathan Quick's team. So they kept all the Rangers together this year. Maybe they had a draft and that's just how it went. I'm not really sure, but either way, very, very cool to see. As far as the Rangers that were there, though, there were some interesting talking points to come out of yesterday's charity game, because these players, or at least some of them, met with some of the Ranger beat reporters that were on hand. And again, there were some interesting takeaways. Brett Berard, this was something that I noticed on my own, and then Berard himself confirmed it while talking with the Ranger reporters, including Vince Mercogliano. But something that I noticed when Berard went onto the ice is it's like, yeah, it looks like he's bulked up a little bit. And we know that Berard is somebody that, look, he's never going to be the biggest player on the ice. We know that. We accept that. I think he certainly plays bigger than his frame would suggest. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty obvious that he's been hitting the gym pretty hard this summer, this offseason. He mentioned to Vince Mercogliano, and Vince tweeted this out not too long after that, that Berard has been putting on some extra muscle this summer. And I think that's something that's certainly going to bode well for him. Several of the Rangers right now are training at Prentice Hockey Performance Center here in Connecticut. Fox, Berard, Rempe, Jonathan Quick, among others. And Ben Prentice, for anybody that might not be familiar with that name, he's basically seen as almost like a local hockey training guru. I mean, he's got his gym and he really puts these guys to work. And Berard is reaping the benefits of that so far this summer. And I would imagine that he'll continue showing up for, more conditioning and whatnot at Prentice's gym. But another interesting takeaway as it pertains to Berard, he revealed that he played through an injury. Now we kind of knew that. He did get injured for the Rangers and missed a couple of games and then came back. But this is also the reason why Berard had to pull out of the World Championships. He was all set to represent the United States, so he missed out on the gold medal there, which is obviously unfortunate. But he probably made the right decision. He's got to prioritize getting ready for this upcoming season. But apparently Berard, what happened was, in his 4th game with the Rangers this year on November 30th, he tore his labrum And like I said, he missed a few games, but then he basically just played through it for the rest of the season. This is what Berard had to say about the whole situation. I was out for a week or so, but it's one of those things where you're up in the NHL, you work your whole life for it. I felt like I was playing pretty good hockey too, so you don't want to really lose that. So I just tried to play through it. And we could debate whether that's the right way to go or not, but I will say this. Brett Berard was one of the few bright spots, for the Rangers this past season. It was obviously a bad season. I mean, I've used every adjective in the book to describe what the Rangers did last year, and I do want to turn the page and try to be a little more positive and look forward to this upcoming season, which I am. I am looking forward to this next season, and hopefully some of you are as well. But yeah, Berard was one of the few bright spots. I mean, he ended up in 35 games with 6 goals, 4 assists. He was a -6, only averaged 10 minutes and 43 seconds of ice time per night, but also had 20 block shots at 53 hits. And honestly, for a 5th rounder making his NHL debut on a Ranger team where literally everything else is burning to the ground around him, for him to be able to produce like that and put up those kinds of numbers, I mean, that's pretty good. And in a season last year where there were so few positives for any of us to grab onto, I think for sure you look at that and it's like, okay, Brett Berard, he showed well for himself. And I would go so far as to say that of the big 3 Ranger prospect forwards, Berard, Othman, and Perreault, I would say the one that I think is like most ready, most equipped to help the Rangers at the start of this upcoming season, it honestly might be Brett Berard. Now, I for sure believe that Gabe Perreault especially, and Othman to a lesser degree, both of them have higher ceilings. I mean, Perreault for sure has a higher ceiling than Berard, but in terms of just being NHL ready and ready to go and having a chance to hit the ground running this upcoming season, I think Brett Berard might be that guy, and I think he's going to make this team out of training camp. We'll see how it all goes there, but some interesting, updates from Brett Berard and kind of revealing everything that went on with him last season. We also had Matt Rempe, and Rempe, he's the show stealer at these things, man. The kids, the young fans in particular, gravitate to Matt Rempe in a way that I'm not ever sure that I've ever really seen with any other player on the Rangers. There's certain players that just make a connection with a certain kind of fan, and the kids, they love Matt Rempe. When he got there out of his car, they're all chanting his name. They're waiting in line for autographs and selfies and whatnot. And Rempe, same thing that he did last year, took his time going down the entire line on his way to the rink. He was not leaving that area until every single person got what they wanted, whether that was an autograph, a selfie, all the above, whatever it might be. He was chatting with the fans and whatnot. In fact, we do have a video here of a quick video of Rempe signing autographs, taking selfies with a couple of fans. I'll play that for you guys right now. So as you can see, and as I'm sure a lot of you are already very well aware, Matt Rempe, very much a man of the people, especially when it comes to that younger crowd. Like I said, young Ranger fans gravitate to him in a way that I'm not sure I've ever really seen with any other Ranger player. I would throw out a name like maybe Matt Zuccarello because, he was the underdog. He was always a favorite of every demographic of Ranger fan that you could possibly come up with. I mean, maybe like somebody like Sean Avery back in the day, because I mean, he was just so over the top with his antics and whatnot. But again, I think I would put Matt Rempe at the top of that list. You guys let me know if there's anybody else, but he has truly made a connection with some of the younger Ranger fans. And there's split opinions on Matt Rempe. There's people that love him. There's people that don't really get the hype and don't really think that he can really do a whole lot to help the Rangers. I like Rempe quite a bit. I think he's certainly earned his place in the NHL. As far as his ceiling, we'll see what it is going forward. But for me, I mean, yeah, he should be on that 4th line on opening night this upcoming season, and we'll see how it goes if he ever, develops to anything beyond that. He too, along with Brett Berard and a couple of other Rangers, is training with Ben Prentice. And we've heard all these stories about how he's doing work, last offseason with Chris Kreider. He was living with Jonathan Quick and his family last offseason as well. Whatever Matt Rempe does not accomplish in the NHL, it will not be for a lack of effort. This guy is doing everything possible he can to become, a more well-rounded player. And like I said, somebody that has that connection with the fans for sure. But this is what Rempe had to say about training with Ben Prentice, who we mentioned just a second ago. It's all competitive. We all want to put up the best numbers. I want to be the best in the gym. It's a lot of fun. You've got Quickie in there. He's 40 and still slinging weights around. It's unreal. Quick is 39. Let's not go making people 40 before they're actually 40. All right, Matt. You got to calm down there a little bit. But Jonathan Quick, to Rempe's point, will turn 40 during this upcoming season. And on a personal note, Jonathan Quick is very likely to be the last pro athlete for any team that I cheer for that is older than me. So Jonathan Quick can keep playing as long as he wants, for as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, good stuff there from Rempe. He was also asked about seeing Chris Kreider in Ducks gear around the gym, because Kreider's been training with them as well. And Kreider was obviously there at this game last night. And Rempe said this: "It's definitely different. I'm going to miss him a lot. He's a great mentor, teammate to me, but still I see him every day at the gym. It's good to see him." So yeah, I mean, Kreider, always a good teammate, and seems like he was one of the couple different guys that took Matt Rempe under his wing during some of these off seasons, and might even be continuing to do that, even though they're not on the same team anymore. Speaking of Chris Kreider, he was one of the most celebrated players at this event. He got a big reaction when he got there. He was walking in with his bag and everything, and he went straight into the rink, drops off his equipment, comes back out. But he's doing the same thing as Rempe. He's signing autographs. He's taking selfies. Everything that the fans want, he's doing it. And a lot of fans, saying things like, "Yeah, you'll always be a Ranger, and we love you, and they shouldn't have traded you," and all this stuff. But he seemed like he was in good spirits. He's talked in interviews a couple of times recently how, it's still kind of sinking in. There's days that it feels real that he's no longer a Ranger, and then there's other days where it doesn't feel real. But as far as like pregame introductions, because they introduce all the players before the charity game starts, he was cheered as louder than probably anybody on the ice. And I must mention this because honestly, this is one of the instances where Chris Kreider no longer being a Ranger started to feel, I would say, very real to me. And it's just such a little thing. But if you were at this game or if you watched it on the YouTube stream, you might know where I'm going with this. So nearly every player that participated in this charity game last night was wearing either a white or black helmet. But there were a couple of players that represented, their NHL team. You had Shane Gossespear was wearing a red helmet, and he plays for the Canes. Will Smith was there, one of the young stars, developing stars in this league. He plays for the Sharks. He was wearing a green helmet. The only other one that I noticed that was not wearing a black or white helmet was Chris Kreider. And Chris Kreider was wearing an orange helmet, possibly for the first time in his life. I mean, I don't know that for sure, but that might be the first time he's ever worn an orange helmet during a game. And it's like, yeah, he's on the Anaheim Ducks now. He's not on the Rangers anymore. And it's pretty wild to see that. I mean, we're all aware of it. We all know it. And I certainly still understand the reasons why the Rangers traded Kreider. But yeah, that moment kind of hit a little bit because he's out there rocking the orange. And it's like, that's not your color. But yeah, it is his color. It is now. But this is what Kreider said about the entire situation. All the love that he was getting from the Ranger fans before the game. A lot of kindness, a lot of appreciation, a lot of gratitude. That goes both ways. Super lucky to have experienced what I experienced. Something that's always going to be near and dear to me. And a massive part of that is obviously the fan base. That's what makes the Rangers so special, right? Indeed. And look, all the best to Chris Kreider and Anaheim. I do think it's a good landing spot. It's a team that is getting better. And as we've talked about before on here, if nothing else, he's got 3 former teammates there that he can now play alongside over there in Anaheim. So in just a minute, we're going to shift our attention back to the actual game, the Shoulder Check Showcase game. Like I said, just a great night, a lot of fun, a lot of lighthearted moments that kind of fit the just the whole theme of the night, I would say. So we're going to go ahead and talk about that in just a second. Actually, let's do this real quick. There was, I want to play a video of Chris Kreider being introduced so you guys can experience, how he was received by all the fans in the arena. And it was mostly Ranger fans.
Not gonna lie, that's gonna take some getting used to. From the Philadelphia Flyers, Trevor Zegras.
I just noticed this now while playing this episode, while recording this episode. I didn't notice this when I was uploading the video into the system here. You can hear a young fan say, "We'll always love you, Chris, no matter what team you're on." That's good stuff. That's good stuff. That's a fan that gets it. And again, I understand why the Rangers did what they did. I feel like it pretty much had to be done. But yeah, I mean, you see something like this with the orange helmet and whatnot, and Yeah, Chris Kreider's no longer a Ranger. It's a whole new world for a lot of Ranger fans. It's something they've never experienced before. So we'll see how everything goes this upcoming season. Hopefully, Kreider does well with the Ducks. But in just a second, going to keep everything rolling. Going to keep talking about the Shoulder Check Showcase. Going to play a couple of other highlight videos as well, and we will do that in just a second. All right, let's go ahead and wrap up this special episode of Locked On New York Rangers, this Shoulder Check Showcase centric episode of Locked On New York Rangers, by continuing to talk about the game itself. To begin with, the final score, you had Team Prentice defeating Team Quick by a final of 11-5. Team Prentice was coached by the aforementioned Ben Prentice as well as Madison Packer. And then Team Quick was coached by Jonathan Quick and Marty St. Louis. And like I said, 11-5 in favor of Team Prentice. As I mentioned earlier, all of the Rangers ended up on Team Quick. All of the current Rangers, anyway. Kreider was actually on Team Prentice, so Kreider came out on the winning side. I kid you not. People are going to think this is funny, but I swear this is what was happening. Early in this game, the Team Quick was overpassing. And as a result of this, or at least partially as a result of this, they fell into a 5-0 hole. And how appropriate is it that the team with all the Rangers on it was overpassing? Now, granted, there were only 4 Rangers. It wasn't just them. There were other guys overpassing. But everybody was looking for that like sweet, slick highlight reel goal. And couple too many passes. And next thing you know, I mean, goals are coming fast and furious in a game like this. And they're down 5-0. And that was also the score at halftime. Yes, I said halftime because there are 2 25-minute periods in this game, and it's a running clock the whole way through. It's obviously very casual, very laid back. There's no icing, there's no penalties. I mean, I guess in theory, a ref could call a penalty, but nobody's going to. And just an overall good time. It's obviously a laid back game. There's no physicality or anything like that. People aren't diving across the ice to block shots, but it is good hockey. And you do see just how good these guys are and how talented they are. I mean, that's obvious to anybody that's watching this game. But it went 5-0 in favor of Team Prentice. We go into the second half, and Trevor Zegras got Team Quick on the board with a goal. Team Quick actually knocked it down to 6-4 at one point. So from 5-0 to down just 6-4. Unfortunately for them, Team Prentice kind of ran away with it after that. And like I said, the final was 11-5. Got to mention this. A former New York Ranger who was participating in this game got the first goal. That would be Kevin Hayes. Honestly, watching this game, and you'll forgive me that I wasn't taking very strict notes and rigidly keeping track of all the stats in this game. But Hayes, man, I mean, strong case to be made that he could have been the MVP. He had at least 1 goal and at least 3 assists that I saw. And, obviously got the first goal of the game. So there's that as well. Got to give a shout out to Spencer Knight as well. He's from Connecticut. He was pretty amazing between the pipes for Team Prentice. There was an instance where he stopped Kreider on a breakaway, and then he stopped somebody else on the breakaway from the Rangers, and then Matt Rempe got there and tried to stuff in the rebound and just was unfortunately not able to do it. But obviously a nice night for Spencer Knight. He was up against Jake Oettinger, and it's interesting because only 1 goalie for both teams. And I'm thinking imagine if one of them wasn't able to go last minute, or God forbid one of them gets hurt in a charity game. I mean, that obviously wouldn't be good. But it's all right, well, now who's the goalie? And my thought was, at that point, I think Jonathan Quick would have to throw on the goalie pads and get back out there, right? I think that's probably the only way that you could probably continue the game at that point. But something else that I'll throw out there as it relates to Matt Rempe. Actually, let's go ahead and first play the goal, or the video of Rempe scoring a goal. So he scored there on a rush into the zone. And I realize this is a charity game. I'm not going to make too big a deal out of something I saw in this game. But Rempe, during parts of this game, was camped in front of the net in the crease. Now, again, charity game. There's no hitting. Nobody's going to be trying to move him out of the crease. But it got me thinking about something that I mentioned earlier on this podcast. What about Matt Rempe on the second power play unit? Just park him in front of the net. Who's going to move him out of there, right? So that's something that I think Rempe can obviously work on moving forward. But there were also a lot of really funny moments in this game, as well as some more lighthearted moments that, again, I think kind of fit the tone and just kind of a lighthearted experience here for anybody that came out and got to see all these superstar players in action. you had a situation where Brett Pesce was kind of whacking Rempe before a face-off. Like, I mean, he's goofing around, I would assume. I don't think there's going to be a fight breaking out in this game. But he was kind of hitting him with his stick, and I think, like, making it look like, oh, you want to go kind of thing. And that's all well and good, but Matt Rempe, he missed Pesce. He actually went for a pretty big hit on Pesce in the corner and missed him by like that much in a charity game. So that was something else there. But I guess if Pesce wants to step to Rempe, Rempe's going to give it back to him at least a little bit. That was the closest thing we got to an actual check in this game, and probably no surprise that it came from Rempe. We also had a situation where the puck was in the corner, and Kreider and Fox are on opposite teams, so Kreider gave Fox a shove, and they were both kind of laughing about that a little bit. I remember 2 years ago, Mika and Kreider were on opposite teams, and there was a face-off, and they both kind of pretend like they were going to drop the gloves and fight each other for a quick second. So another lighthearted moment there as well. And then this was really funny. So there was a breakaway against Jake Oettinger. Oettinger was playing in this game for the first time, and he ends up throwing his stick at the puck, and it sort of worked. I mean, the skater was able to kind of sidestep his incoming stick, but he got to the crease, and Oettinger was able to basically just stone him from point-blank range without a stick. So one way or another, it did work out. And then this was great. I actually have a video of this one as well. So Team Quick is down by 5 goals. You know, getting late in this game is 10-5. Down by 5 goals with 3 minutes left. They decide to pull their goalie, which honestly, for a game like this, that sounds about right because these goals can come fast and furious. Might as well give it a shot. Why not? But eventually, Team Prentice gets control of the puck. They break out with it, and I still don't know who it was. I'm going to watch the video again here with you guys, and maybe we can all figure it out together. But somebody on Team Prentice had a breakaway on an empty net. And so, you know what? I won't spoil it. I'll just let you guys watch the video and see what happens. And so for anybody on audio who didn't get the chance to see that, basically what happened was there was a breakaway, an uncontested breakaway on an empty net, and several players on Team Quick threw their sticks and or their gloves at the player to try to stop him. And I'd love to see that in an actual NHL game. I don't think that would go very well. I think the other team might take offense to that. But you know, the other thing that I liked at the end of this game was we had all 4 of the current Rangers on the ice together, posing for a picture. The 4 current Rangers that played in this game. Rempe, Fox, Berard, and Fortescue. So that was very nice. I'm sure it's a special moment for all of them. And everybody on both sides, once the game ended, you know, they went out there, center ice, all kind of put their arms around each other, posed for a picture. But like I said, again, just a wonderful evening for a great cause. Hopefully I've done it some justice on this podcast. It's become, honestly, one of my favorite things on the NHL calendar. I mean, it's the summer. There's not hockey. And even as far as like free agency and stuff, everything is like kind of quiet right now. But this game and everything it represents and just, you know, the hockey aspect too, getting to see all these players in action really is a wonderful thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave a description, or I'm going to leave a link in the description of this episode where if you'd be so inclined to donate to the HT40 Foundation, you will be able to do so by clicking on that link. And I also must give at the very end here, special shout out to both Ken Smith and Rob Thorson. They both made this happen for me in all the last three years here, the last 3 summers, where they've gotten me into the building and make sure I felt welcome and accommodated and everything. And like I said, it's been a really fun thing to be even a very small part of. And it's a great thing. Anybody that was in the building last night, or if you've gone the other 2 previous games, you know what I'm talking about. And if you've never been and you're in the area, can't possibly recommend it enough. It really is a special night. So we'll call it there. If you guys would like to get in touch with this podcast, please send an email to lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Once again, that is lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Definitely give us a follow on Twitter as well at JChick17. Once again, that's at JCHIK17. And definitely subscribe to Locked On New York Rangers YouTube channel. Thanks again, guys. I will see you next time.